So I joined the Air Force in 1993, and initially I was a security specialist, and then later it was broke up into law enforcement and security. And initially I was a security specialist, and then later the Air Force combined the two career fields, the law enforcement aspect and the security, along with our K9 and our combat arms training. They combined it all into one career field called security forces. So, yeah, I joined in 93, and then I got heavily involved in law enforcement when I went to Vandenberg. And I had an opportunity there to work with a lot of civilian law enforcement organizations, some really high caliber ones like California Highway Patrol, Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, and on and on. And the reason for that was Vandenberg has a lot of joint or proprietary jurisdiction, meaning we have California Highway 101 leads to 1 and goes right through Vandenberg. So there were portions of the highway that we had exclusive jurisdiction. So we would have to respond to any incidents on the highway, like an accident, or sometimes it was a major route for drug smuggling, human trafficking, basically everything coming south, north through California. So it was a very busy law enforcement mission there. So I got to Vandenberg in 1999. And then by 2003, when the incident occurred, I was assigned to Bravo Flight. Each unit is made up of 4 flights of cops, with about 60 or more people per flight. And I was assigned to Bravo Flight. At the time, I was the senior law enforcement patrolman. And yeah, that's how I got involved. I came into work one day and I walked into a movie.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But could you just give us some idea about Vandenberg itself? You know, this is a huge facility in itself. And can you talk about what kind of was going on there at the time?
So yeah, Vandenberg was part of Space Command at the time.
Okay.
And they had, after the war started in 2001, President Bush had a new initiative for the National Missile Defense Project. And that was basically a national project to protect us from incoming ballistic missiles and other threats. So the base became extremely busy. They were building out all new infrastructure, testing these new weapon systems, and we had to guard all of those facilities. So me and my coworkers were involved in guarding the facilities and just maintaining security. So at that point in 2003, we were very busy. We were doing very important launches, testing out the efficacy of the weapon system. And that's basically what Vandenberg is there for. It's a massive space launch installation with multiple launch facilities and platforms.
So let's get to this event, because I know it's more than kind of just one event, isn't it? But if we can kind of go from where it started and sort of paint a really clear picture of it, if you don't mind.
So yeah, so the event began in October 2003, October 14th. And I came on shift sometime in the late afternoon. I was working the midnight shift, and I was relieving Delta Flight. Delta Flight had worked the day shift. So it started out as a regular day. I drove into work, and when I arrived, there was a large group of other cops at the smoking pit right across from our armory. And so I knew something was up when I showed up. And as I pulled in to the parking lot, everybody started to point at me, and I could tell they were excited to tell me something big had happened. And that wasn't, very unusual. It was a very busy base. We had a very robust law enforcement mission, so it wasn't uncommon for me to come in and hear some wild tale about something that had happened earlier in the day. So yeah, I said, okay, something's up. I parked my truck. I walked over to the smoke pit, and everybody starts to tell me that they had this real world UFO encounter at 08:45 in the morning. And, initially I was a little skeptical, but very quickly I realized that they were not joking around and this was an actual event.
Right.
So the initial briefing I got was that a group of Boeing contractors had been working out at Launch Facility 21 on North Base, about 30 minutes drive from our command center. And they had called in that a gigantic UFO had been floating over the launch facility for an extended period of time. And they had eventually, the contractors called the range control to report it. And range control had made a number of calls to, the weather radar stations, trying to verify if there were balloons up or if anyone knew what was going on. And they received, a confirmation that there were no weather balloons, nothing on radar. And then eventually the range control on-duty dispatcher contacted the law enforcement desk, our command center, and reported the incident. And at that point, all the post and patrols were notified that there was an incident, and the on-duty flight chief and senior patrolman responded out to the launch facility, made contact with the contractors, got the story, had them write sworn written statements. And by that time, the patrolman, the object had drifted off to the east onto the base. And the patrolman didn't report seeing anything anomalous. So they returned back to the squadron, filed the incident in the blotter, and then they called in the technical sergeant from range control who had made the initial notification to the cops. And they brought him in, they interviewed him and had him write a sworn written statement. And I have his statement. And now would be a good time. I have the blotter and I have the statement. And we can read it.
That would be amazing. Yes, please.
Yeah. So what I've done, just so everyone knows, what I've hand typed out verbatim a copy of the blotter and the incident, and I've X'd out the name. So when I'm reading it, it'll read something like Master Sergeant X. So let me pull them up. Hopefully we won't have any issues when I pull this document up. Let me know.
No problem at all.
I'll read the blotter first.
Okay.
So this blotter entry was from the blotter that ran from 0500 hours, October 14th, 2003 to 0500 hours on 15 October. So this blotter would have basically chronicled everything that happened on Delta flight in the daytime and everything on Bravo flight in the evening.
Right.
So this is blotter entry number 13 at 0845 hours local. The title is Patrol Response Unidentified Flying Object. And the first line is the complainant, that's Tech Sergeant X from Range Control. And then 3 witnesses are listed, each Boeing contractors, along with their duty phone numbers. And then here's the written summary. Tech Sergeant X notified the Security Forces Control Center he received a call telling him there was a red square object hovering in the air above LF-21. Master Sergeant X, Police 1, and Technical Sergeant X, Police 1 Alpha, were dispatched and responded. Upon arriving on scene, there was no evidence of any hovering objects in the vicinity. Senior Master Sergeant X from Range Control and Staff Sergeant X from Base Operations were notified and relayed there were no sightings on their radar during that time period. Master Sergeant X approached the witnesses at LF-21 and LF-10 who reported seeing the unidentified flying object. For more information, refer to Air Force Form 1168. And then it has the notifications list. So the people notified were Lieutenant Colonel X, who was the Security Forces commander, my commander. Senior Master Sergeant X, he was the Security Forces Operations Superintendent. Staff Sergeant X with Air Force OSI. Staff Sergeant X with Security Forces Investigations.
Right.
Special Agent X with OSI. And Airman First Class X with the 30th Space Wing Command Post. So that's the official record of what the police chronicled after the incident was reported and investigated. So that's the official document that I have.
That's amazing. It's good that they still have some documentation. It's not just, word of mouth. That's incredible.
Yeah. And had I not had this documentation, honestly, I don't think I would have came through.
Right.
I really needed to have something backing me up that could be investigated and vetted, and to give me the confidence to come forward.
Sure.
With the story, because it is, it's an unbelievable story.
Dylan Borland, a U.S. Air Force veteran, served as a geospatial intelligence analyst. With years of experience working inside military and defense intelligence, Borland brings a unique perspective to the UAP discussion. Unlike pilots who witness phenomena directly, his role has been in analyzing the data, the radar returns, the satellite imagery, and the information often hidden deep within classified systems. His testimony may shed light on how UAP encounters are tracked, handled, and possibly suppressed inside America's intelligence community.
I am Operations Specialist Senior Chief Alexandro Wiggins. Been in the Navy for 23 years and counting. And I work here in San Diego currently on shore duty. And yeah, my last command was the USS Jackson. I witnessed on my radar a few contacts popping up. I decided to go out to the bridge wing just to take a look. And to my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon, but it looked as if it were surfacing out of the water and going up. So went back inside, looked at my radar to just kind of match what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And I didn't really see what I thought I was going to see. I only saw one light visually, but then I saw 4 different contacts on radar. But asked the CSM to take a look on Sapphire. They're in charge of managing Sapphire and moving it around to just look at surface and air contacts around our ship. So they slew over to the location that I gave them, the direction in which I gave them. And that's where you see the video cut into play, where you see it slew into that target to kind of look at it. And, they're the operators, so they know how to zoom in and kind of see what the profile of the contact that we're looking at, to kind of understand, okay, if it were a ComNav radar, which is a typical, airliner, 747, then we're going to say, okay, good to go. They're, headed off to Hawaii or wherever, anywhere to the west. But that night we didn't witness that, as shown by the video. It definitely was not, lights on the horizon from the city, nor did I have anything as far as helicopters or air traffic that I was detecting at all in that location.
George Knapp is not a soldier or a pilot or an intelligence officer. He is a journalist. But for more than 3 decades, his work has shaped the public conversation about UFOs and government secrecy. In 1989, Knapp was the first reporter to give airtime to Bob Lazar's extraordinary claims about Area 51, claims that ignited worldwide interest and brought the shadowy world of secret programs into the light. While others dismissed the story, Knapp pursued it, establishing himself as one of the few mainstream journalists willing to take the subject seriously. His investigations did not stop there. Knapp co-authored Hunt for the Skinwalker, documenting decades of strange phenomena at a Utah ranch that later became the focus of Pentagon research. He followed that with Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, exposing how government programs quietly studied unexplained aerial and paranormal events under the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, or AAWSAP. Through his reporting on Coast to Coast AM, his work with KLAS-TV in Las Vegas, and his more recent weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell, Knapp has chronicled the accounts of countless military whistleblowers, radar operators, pilots, and intelligence insiders who risked their careers to speak out. His dedication has earned him multiple Emmy Awards, a Peabody Award, and recognition from his peers, not for chasing tabloid headlines, but for hard-nosed investigative journalism that refused to look away from the evidence. Now, in 2025, George Knapp steps forward as a witness before Congress, not because he saw a UAP with his own eyes, but because he has built the record. He has interviewed those who were there, preserved their testimony, and pushed for answers when others turned away. Knapp's presence at this hearing represents more than journalism. It represents the public's right to know, the demand for transparency, and the insistence that secrecy must end. He stands not only as a reporter, but as a voice for every story, every witness, and every truth that has been buried for too long.